Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be making a bunch of different pouring projects using the supplies from the Mixed Media Inspired box for this month. So as you can see here, I have Dina Wakley pouring medium, and I've pre-mixed all of these colors that are part of the Dilutions paint line, and I've done 1 part paint to 2 parts pouring medium, and I've mixed those up really well. I also have a couple pieces of the Dina Wakley media board here in the smallest size. And now I'm going to add a little bit of cell creator to a couple of these colors. Now cell creator is what's going to make those cells and cause the paint to separate when we end up pouring these onto these sheets. Now the setup of this video is a little bit different because in this video I'm going to be pouring everything, and then in future videos I'm going to be completing the projects with different other layering elements. So this video is just simply going to be how I poured all of these things. So for this first piece, I'm going to just start creating lines across. And you can see here as the white and the purple hit, how you can already start to see those cells creating. And that is because of the cell creator that we put into the crushed grape paint mixture. So I'm just trying to get all 5 of my colors on here, and you can see there's not very much of the orange because it's towards the end and I didn't really leave enough space for that as the pink started to run. But that's okay, because as I start to tip this piece, more of the orange will start to move onto the square. So I'm just using my finger and very carefully I'm dragging out this pouring medium to the edge so that when I end up tipping this, it's not going to end up getting stuck. It's going to run completely off the edge and not pool in a weird way because it's trying to resist that canvas. And that's the way paint always is when there's an area, even on regular paper, it won't want to go on there if it's not already wet with another kind of medium. So as you can see here, as I'm tipping this and I'm rotating it slightly, you can see that orange starts to move into the pink more, the purple's moving, and cells are definitely starting to form between, you can really see it between the purple and pink in the white. You can see where those cells are. So I'm going to set that aside to dry, and now what you see me doing here is there's a lot of runoff on my mat. Now I'm working on the Ranger silicone mat, so this mat allows me to not only pick up the overpour, as you can see here I'm using Dina Wakley Media size 5 tag, but it also is going to allow me to completely let this dry and make an acrylic skin, and I'll be able to peel that off later. If you do this on anything else, this pouring medium is permanent and it will dry. So it will dry on your table, on your, if you have your computer nearby, your phone, your fingernails, it will dry for days. So if that's a bothersome thing for you, wear gloves. Otherwise, I didn't really care, and I was cleaning up in between, so I'm not using gloves here. But back to the project. Now I went and got a Dina Wakley Media chipboard piece, and I'm also putting that into the overpour, as you can see here. And I'm carefully dabbing it back into the medium if there was some spots that I'd missed. I'm not going all the way back in as I don't want to cause everything that I've already put on there to be ruined. And I'm going to set that aside to dry as well. And I'm just going to keep repeating this process until I've used up most of the overpour, or used most of the medium. You can, of course, if you don't want to do that, just wipe this up and keep on going. But I feel it's a shame to waste all of that overpour, and in the end, I've got some really awesome tags that I can use later in collage. I can cut them up. I could use them as a base of another project. So I'm really happy to use every little bit of medium that I can get to create lots of different things. And also, you're really not going to be able to achieve these colors and this mixture any other way. This is unique. So as you can see here, I have a few different sizes of tags. I have a size 5, a size 2, I believe, and a size 8 tag. I'm going to set those aside to dry as I move on to the second piece of media board. And here I did 3 different circles, and then I'm just rotating the board until I like how it starts to look and run. And at this point, I decided I did want to add a little bit of blue into there, so I'm going to do that. And by adding it afterwards, I'm able to control where that blue ran a little bit more than if I had done it earlier in the project. I'm just going to keep rotating this until I like the final coverage. And that's the cool thing about pouring medium, is that there isn't really a limit to how long you can rotate it. Now, the more and more you tip it and move this, the more and more blended it's going to be. But you do have a little bit of forgiveness in that. And you can see here, I really like this final piece, and I'm going to set that aside to dry. And I'm once again going to go into the overpour using Dina Wakley Media chipboard piece to pick that up. And you can see the marbling on there. There really is no other way to achieve this marbling. And it's going to look awesome later in my art journal to have this piece of truly unique art. So I'm tipping that a little bit to let the color start to run. Then I'm going to dab in the other wing. And then I wanted the bottom half of the bird to be lighter in color, so I'm just going to directly pour some of the white pouring medium mixture over it and then tip and let that run. And you can see that the bottom half of the bird is a little bit lighter than the top half where the wings are. I also wanted some blue on the head, so now I'm just picking it up with my finger and I'm placing it where I want it on there. Now, you're going to want to use some caution when doing that. But in this case, I knew that the head of the bird was completely white, and by adding the blue, I wasn't overly mixing and causing a problem. I set all those pieces aside to dry, and now I'm going to pour a bigger piece of the Dina Wakley Media board. So for this, I am taking a little bit of the white, and I'm using one of the stir sticks, and I'm spreading out the white so the entire board is covered in medium, which will aid in my pouring as the medium wants to roll and move within itself. It will flow easier because there's already a layer of wet, working wet in wet. So I'm going to start by putting a circle of blue, and now I'm going to pour into the center of that. And this is called the puddle pour. So I'm going to pour directly into the center of the purple, continuing to make rings. And you can see the cells that are starting to form along the left side especially of this. So I'm going to rotate it a little bit and get those colors to run. And then I'm going to go in with a little bit of white. I was going to add some orange, but I decided against it. I didn't want that color in here. So I'm adding some white into the center ring. And I'm going to rotate it again. And you can see as you rotate this, you can pull it all one way, and as you bring it back, you actually bring the color back. So like the top half of that a second ago was all white, and now it is back to being blue and pink and purple. So that's the interesting thing, depending on how you tilt and rotate your pour, the different colors you can achieve. And so I just missed a little bit there with my medium, so I'm going to take my finger and pull that in. And I'm really happy with how this pour is turning out. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. Because I just can't stand to waste, I am going to go in with another piece of chipboard. Now you could use different variety. I just had a pack of these flying elements, the flying pack of chipboard. So I'm using all of those, the birds, the butterflies, the bee. And I'm okay with it. If you wanted to use some different shapes, this of course will work for anything, any chipboard, grunge board you have. So now I have another piece there. Set that aside. And if you didn't want to use takes, you can also use loose pieces of watercolor paper, a manila tag, a mixed media tag, a craft, pieces of craft paper. Really anything will work for this. I just simply had these white tags sitting nearby, so that's what I'm using. But anything will work for this pickup technique to use your overpour. Okay, so now I'm going to do what's called a dirty pour, and that's you take all the bits of paint that I have mixed up and pour them into one jar. as you can see here, and I'm just going to keep layering these colors and pour them all into one jar. Now in hindsight, I should have got a bigger piece to pour on because this was really small and I had a lot of medium in this jar, but it ended up being okay, as you'll see in a minute. So now that I have all of my colors layered into this jar, I'm simply going to tip it and pour it all out at once onto my piece of canvas here. And you can see as the colors start to pull out how I'm getting different layers of color. So there isn't going to be as much of the blue in this because there wasn't much of the blue to begin with. So predominantly you're seeing pink and purple and orange. A little bit of the blue maybe in the center there I'm seeing peek out, but not a ton. So now I'm going to tip this, and at any point that you like your pour, you can stop. I kept going because I was trying to drag out those swirls, and this ended up being a very reminiscent pattern of like a 1970s psychedelic, which I liked. So that's how it looks. I'm leaving it. I'm going to let it dry. And now for the paint that's underneath. As you can see, it's quite a large puddle. I'm actually going to leave this alone and let it dry into a huge acrylic skin. It's going to take about a day or so to let that dry just because there's so much medium. And I will show you what that looks like when it's completely dry and I peel it off the silicone mat. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check out the future videos as I show you how to use these poured pieces in mixed media projects and also incorporate them into your art journal. Have a wonderful day.